everybody, welcome back to Michelle's Home and Garden, and if you're new here today and visiting, thank you so much for stopping by. So today I've got various projects that I'm working on. I went to the store over the weekend and found at the garden store a Serendipity Proven Winners allium. Now I have seen these in other people's gardens and I think they're so pretty. And on the garden walk that we did over the weekend, last weekend, one of the homes had several of these in their garden along their walkway, and it just really popped. So I wanted to try one and I picked it up. Now a lot of times when I try out plants, I don't know about you, but I'll only buy one. And the reason being is I like to test them and experiment and see how well they actually look in my garden and how well they perform before I do a lot of mass plantings. The reason being is I've had experience before where I went out and bought 4 or 5 of the same plant thinking that I would do a mass planting, and then they didn't do well. So not only did I have to go to the work of replacing them, but at the added expense. So anymore, what I like to do is normally I buy one and trial it first and see how well it does in my garden. So let me know, is that something that you normally do too? So I'm going to plant one of these out in the garden then today. Now the Serendipity allium is full to part sun, so it will be fine in my full sun back garden. It also gets about 20 inches high, and it's said to separate them about 10 inches. Now this, if you're familiar with alliums, they're kind of a bulb plant. So they shoot up stalks. So I may be able to take a little piece of this off and put it somewhere else in the garden, or I may just plop it all down in one spot and just let it look big as it is. So we'll see. So we're going to be working on that today. The other thing I have to work on, the magnolia in the bag. I need to trim that up because that Jane Magnolia is actually a shrub that I have turned into a tree form. So I already took some branches off of it in this last week, but I want to do some more trimming and raise that canopy up so that the plants underneath, that I can see them better, and also so they get a little bit more sun than what they're getting now. Another project that I have going on in the garden is I have the bird bath over against the far fence that I need to put back together, and the reason being is I think maybe a raccoon got on it in the middle of the night and flipped over the cement top on it, which works out for me. It didn't hurt the bird bath. But I need to move the stone that it's setting on and repurpose that stone somewhere else in the garden because my pavers that I have over by the garden house, I need a couple more and they discontinued them. So now I'm scrounging around in the backyard looking for stones that I have that coordinate, and so I'm going to move some around. So I also need to work on that. I want to deadhead some of the flowers. And I also want to show you some stuff that's in bloom now. So come along with me, let's get going, and let's get some work done. Okay, so we're going to plant the allium first. Now the first thing that I wanted to show you is what I use to plant the allium, what I'm going to add for amendments. I always like to add a little bit of biotone to the soil. And then I have a little bit of biofloral compost left that I'll also add to the hole that I'm planting in the ground. The reason I'm doing that is I have clay soil, so I think the compost really helps. So let's get going on that. Okay, if you can see this, the root ball is very root bound and they're circling around. So I'm going to take my pruners and I'm just going to make a few cuts in them, just so those roots go down instead of continuing to wrap around the root ball. And after seeing that root ball, I just don't think that that would be a good plant to try to divide up. So I'm going to leave it as it is, and I think it looks great there, and I'm going to go ahead and backfill it. Now, I didn't tell you at the beginning, I am in Illinois, and this is Garden Zone 5, and we are having nice weather here this week for the last couple days. So there's lots of neighbors out mowing, and you're hearing my neighbors' dogs also. That allium is going to look really pretty there, and look at all the little flower buds on it. So I can't wait to see how that does. Okay, so the next project is the Jane Magnolia. I'd like to trim up some more underneath here so that'll raise the canopy. Now this, like I mentioned, the Jane Magnolia is actually a shrub that I have trained into a tree form. And so to keep that tree form, I usually take off the bottom branches of the canopy. Every season I'll take off a few. And it's not that big of a job, but I need to do it. I took off some last weekend, and I want to take off these back in the back and bring that up so you can see the roses some more. And also that'll give sunlight down here to some of the other plants that may be getting a little bit too much shade. Now what I'll be using for tools is I have hand pruners, I have longer pruners, and then I have my wonderful collapsible Fisker trash bag that I use for all my clippings. If you do not have one of these green collapsible Fisker bags, you need one. They are just so handy. I use this whenever I'm doing a larger amount of pruning. Now if I'm just out at nighttime deadheading a few roses, I have a smaller bucket that I'll show you that I picked up at a dollar store to use, and it's really handy. But for bigger projects or anything that I know is going to be quite a bit, this collapsible basket works awesome. So let's get going on the pruning. And this is kind of like a haircut. I'm taking off a little bit, and I can always go back and take off more, but you don't want to take off too much because then you can't put it back on. And this does offer some privacy, that, so it blocks the road some. So I don't want to take off too much. So it's that balance of taking off enough, but leaving enough on too. Yeah, that looks, I like that. It looks better. And then what I do is these little ones that are hanging down, you don't even need pruners for those. They just pop right off. So then I go in and take those off down here. And some there on the trunk. But I really like how this trunk looks, how it has two different trunks on it, and they kind of overlap. I think it gives it a real pretty, more ornamental look. Oh, it just looks so much better now that that magnolia is pruned up some. Look at how much light that's going to provide for all the stuff underneath of it, all the different plants. And I still have the privacy too between the fence and the tree. That'll still provide the privacy I wanted. Okay, so this is my next project. This is the concrete bird bath that's over by the tutor with the Eden rose on it. And you can see that I'm pretty sure it was a coon that got up in there and flipped it over. But underneath the base of that concrete bird bath is the stepping stone that I've been wanting to put over by the garden house. So this gives me a good excuse to do it right now while it's already taken apart. So the first thing I'm going to do is move this base, and then I'm going to move the mulch back to uncover the stone. And I think when it did drop, it looks like it might have cracked the stone, so we'll have to see. Because I see a crack through it. Oh, it sure did. Look at that. But that's okay. I can still use it. But note to self, you know, if you... Oh, and there's always grass growing. If you find stone you like, you want to buy extra, because you never know when they're going to discontinue it and then you can't get it anymore. It's a little slippery. Okay, so I'm going to replace it with a red block, which is extra blocks that I have, and it'll work for my pedestal, and it's not something that shows. So then let's go ahead and put that mulch back around the base of it. Okay, and this is going to be the heavy part. Boy, this top is heavy. Oh, and it fell on one of the plants, too. There we go. I think the columbine will be fine. A little wobbly. So for now, I don't think I'll fill it back up. I think I'll just leave it as is and see if it's setting overnight, because it's real wet under there. So I think it'll smash down to that soil. Because this was full of water when he dumped it over, so it made the ground super wet. Okay, so the next project then is to take this stone over and repurpose it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that broken stone and I'm going to put it right here, because it's not going to show that much back here. But I like to have these stones here for when I water, when I bring my hose back, and having somewhere to step instead of stepping on the mulch. So I've already taken a stone that was there because I'm going to flip-flop them, because the other stones are more noticeable, where this one I don't think will be noticeable back here. So I was able to pull two stones from the other side and put them there so that they finish it, because this side is more noticeable than that corner, and that's where I take the hose to water the window boxes on the side of the garden house, and also to water the plants there. So I really wanted a walking space, So I think that'll work out great. I'm not going to put those in tonight because I still want to go around and do some deadheading and seeing what's blooming. I want to show you what's blooming first. I wanted to show you the Casablanca lilies. More have opened. Look how gorgeous. This one just opened today, and I haven't even taken the yellow off of it yet. But aren't those pretty? And they smell so good. I love Casablanca lilies. The Boscabel rose from David Austin, it only had a couple buds on it this weekend that were open, and just, it seems like overnight all of these opened. Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. And they smell very fragrant. And this rose will get much bigger. If I recall, I think 3 to 4 foot tall and wide. And right now I'd say it's probably about 18 inches. So it's going to get much bigger. And this is its second season. The Paris rose is blooming now. It opened up again. It's a hybrid tea. And look at all the buds surrounding that one rose. It is very fragrant and makes a really pretty cut vase flower. This came up on its own this year. Look how pretty that is with that light pink and that dark pink. And it is super tall for a Cleome. I'd say that's probably 3 foot tall. And it's got all those different heads. And then down inside there's a darker pink one there. So it is just really putting on a show. Okay, so now I want to start deadheading roses. And this is the bucket I was telling you about. And I picked this up at the dollar store last season for $1 or $2. And it is just, with the handles on it, it's just a really good size to use for doing little, you know, a little bunch of deadheading. Then I have my bottle of alcohol that I spray my pruners in between each flower that I prune. So I'm just going to go, since these are multiple head roses, I'm just cutting off the ones that are dead on the actual stalk. Now this one, there's only one, so I'm going to go back to about 5 leaves. And they usually say on the outside of the stem, and then cut there, and then that should push new growth. Like right here, this is only 3, so I would want to go down, and my next one doesn't look very good, so I'm going to take it even down farther. And keep in mind on this one, this is its, I've only had this rose for a few weeks in the ground. This is its first season. So now this one, I'm going to take off. This leaf isn't looking too good, so I'm going to take it down even farther. One down here. Oh, this. And I did notice that these heads, and I think it probably because it's a first year rose, I'm hoping that the stems on it will get stronger because they're coming up in 3 and 4s on each head, and it's just weighing the rose down and pulling it down to the ground. But I think it's because it's a young rose and it's still getting established. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, Desmonona needs a little bit of a trim. It's also one that has multiple heads on the same. That one still has a little bit of flowers on it. So I'm just trimming off the actual flowers. I'm not actually taking it back to its leaves, since it has 3 or 4 roses on each stem. A few up here, so I'm just going to go right there. We have, see where we have 2? So I'm just taking off the one that's already bloomed. And technically you wouldn't have to do this if you didn't want to. Oh, that one I cut off an extra flower. If you wanted to wait until the whole entire stem finished, you could do that. Well, we got a lot done today. The allium got planted. We got some deadheading done on some plants. The magnolia got a haircut. It is looking good in the backyard garden. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one, and get out to your garden today.